Hi everyone, it's Kenshi. If you've been following my journey, it's almost gonna be 7 years since I came to Japan. I experienced two major things that most expats might have experienced as well. One is living in academia, then shifting to academia workplace. Today, I want to talk more about the red flags I missed in my first workplace. Unfortunately, these were the lessons that I learned the hard way. I will be having some special series about the red flags in academia, but that's not for today. This one, I think it's gonna be a very, very long video session because I already wrote 5 episodes for it. So if you see me looking down, I'm checking what I wrote because it happened nearly 2 years ago, 1 year ago or something, but yeah, here we go. First thing is why I chose my job. It's because I had no other reason. Job hunting, the classic way, was not really easy for me, especially for someone who was shifting from a scientific background to something very creative. As you know, I have a major. I graduated university in microbiology. Basically, I'm a scientist. I did mid to my PhD, but I realized that I'm not going to graduate in time. I was on a budget. My scholarship was going to run out, so I wanted to find a job. For jobs, I shifted towards something creative, photography, and etc., etc. So I was looking for studios or something creative. I really didn't know what choices I had, so I ended up in that place. What I should have been careful, though, that it's a very, very small company. It really had a high record of people leaving every year. Longest people stayed there was 1 year. That should have been a red flag. Now that I'm thinking, if you're dating someone, they have a huge record of people leaving them in 1 year. Doesn't that ring a red flag or red bell to you? If it does, then I think you should apply the same things to finding a job. But I did not know better back then. They were nice to hire me because they realized I have these issues. I'm desperate to find a job. But the question I got to make the final decision was, are you a negative person or are you a positive person? It's not very professional. If it's a small company with a very small revenue, hiring you means literally owning you. Back in my workplace, the boss, they were not a manager. They had very poor management skills, unfortunately. The problem is, if your boss cannot manage anything, you would be the one compensating. We, as the workers, had to compensate for whatever leftover or disaster it was made because of that managerial skills. Brings back a lot of trauma, bad memories. Even if I tried to bring something new or a system to it, in the end I got the exact tasks. I really despised doing it because it was not my strengths. There was nobody else to do it, so I ended up with the short end of the stick. I had to do the stuff I really didn't like to do. I didn't know or could do better when I was dumped with a new task with 0 ideas on how to do it. For example, I was suddenly asked to contact customers in Japanese. I usually have normal Japanese skills. It's not very customer favorable way of speaking because I do not work in service. That's very given. I probably have said that I don't think I have the skills or something to do this. You know what I heard? It was like, they told me, think of something. It's your job to bring us customers. What are you here for? I was so shocked because it was not on the list of my tasks. Another obvious red flag was that they constantly brought up that I am paying for your visa. The company pays this amount of money every month for you to stay and work in Japan. I think that's a big red flag if someone keeps saying that to you. In the end, if you're told that, remember, they have to pay that. Even if you're Japanese or foreigner, they have to pay for their seishain or full-time workers. This is their job. These are the obligations. It's not that they owe you something or you owe something to them. They're doing you a favor. It is their job. It's obligations that they have to fulfill based on laws and regulations of Japan. So if you ever hear that, just remember that moment. Write it down, what they're telling you, because that's a red flag moment. Of course, some small extra fees are paid for a visa, but it should not be constantly brought up as a way of saying, like, hey, you should be grateful to me, so shut up and do your work. Another one is that you would never feel safe to share your thoughts because you would be constantly scolded. I was scolded a few times for not knowing what to share, asked for like consultation or their ideas. I just barely brought up some topic like, hey, what do you think about this? I was asking for your opinion. It's not even consulting, but that's how it got labeled. And then if you ask them for something and if they cannot stick to their words and fulfill their promises and they keep changing their words, That's not good. And you have to walk on eggshells all the time, constantly around them. Be careful what to say, what not to say. That will drain you mentally. Looking back at that time, I was mentally in a very bad state. The job I ended up was bad. The treatment I got at work was really bad. I was in a very bad toxic relationship, so it's just was a bunch of everything toxic not going well in life. It was not a bright moment in my life, unfortunately. But I'm okay now. Totally revived. It was kind of effed up because of the relationship. Then, what did the boss do? The boss back then would always make snarky comments on how my work is good or not good. I'm not grateful and don't know how to bring customers or learn how to become a photographer. And obviously, they didn't know how to manage stuff and do things, so they immediately would always go to panic mode. Have like a full blast, I don't know how to put it politely, but they would go ape shit crazy on you. Like, in a moment they would explode and get angry and you would be the one getting all the blasts. And oh god, that was not fun. That was not fun. Obviously, these are red flags, but back then, if you're in the situation, you don't know any better. I didn't know any better. If you're asked to do unrelated tasks in the name of it's our culture and this is what you sign up for, that's another red flag. If it's a small company, know that you will be working on other roles to compensate the lacking human resources. You would be doing some other person's job and get paid the same amount because they owe you, you know? They hired you full-time for doing stuff, but they're not willing to pay enough money for professionals to do what they're supposed to be doing, not you. That's a red flag. Back at my contract, it was a very gray zone because I was hired as a translator, because that's a different story. That's easier for you to get general jobs, obviously, rather than going something under photography. It was a very gray zoned kind of contract, and I was asked to do multiple tasks and roles. And the nature of the service job is you end up working on holidays all the time. I was working all the time on weekends, so I was left with zero social life. I didn't have money because living in Tokyo, it's expensive, and if they're not paying you, I don't know, I think a minimum of 290,000 as a salary, it's really difficult. It's really difficult. So imagine I was kind of broke all the time and I had zero social life. Yeah, it wasn't fun. If you ever work in such places, just notice these things very quickly. Don't settle for that. Don't take that abuse. Document everything. Once you get a job, I find it easier to move to other jobs. There are other options because you do have a valid visa, right? Getting the sponsored visa versus already having a visa and just switching a job. There were two different stories. In the next videos, I will talk about the little random weird incidents I had at work where obviously they did not know how to control boundaries and they're angry at me. So it's gonna be like a chronicles of what the hell did this happen to me kind of a thing, rather than just talking about red flags. But I will be talking about whatever red flags was in that place. So if you're interested, please watch those videos as well. And don't settle and go for such places. Be careful. You're precious. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Bye-bye.